What's going on, y'all? Machiavelli Mills TV. So, I've been sitting on this video for a while. I've been letting it fester. I haven't been letting it fester. I've been letting a lot of the misinformation that I've seen be spread around social media. I've let that fester for a while before I decided to come out and combat those things, right? And what I've noticed is that in order to protect a celebrity that you love, that they love, a lot of black folks, people in general, but a lot of even black people will undermine our own community, throw our community under the bus, trash these historically black universities and spit on them, trash them, drag them through the mud, step on them in order to cover for an athlete or an entertainer that they love dearly to the heavens above. And that to me is clown-like, right? This is the thing. A lot of y'all have already been waiting to trash HBCUs for a long time. Y'all been waiting for y'all moment. And so this situation here, this whole situation with Deion leaving Jackson State, this was your opportunity to trash, to dump on HBCUs like never before. Some of the people doing it are anti-black racists who feel like, oh, the HBCU whole thing shouldn't be around. It shouldn't be a thing that we have historically black colleges because they think it's segregation. They think that it was created for the purpose of segregation, not knowing their history that these schools were created when the predominantly white institutions would not let our ancestors go to these schools, right? And they are still around today educating the poor and disenfranchised black American people, because they're located in a lot of poverty-stricken areas a lot of times, right? And they educate the poor, like the poor and disenfranchised black Americans, giving them an opportunity to get a degree in order to make something of their lives and to be qualified to make a prosperous living for themselves, right? And then you have some people who are waiting to trash HBCUs because maybe once or twice they were on the receiving end of a joke where, some HBCU students may have made them feel less black because they didn't go to an HBCU. And I know some of my fellow HBCU alums, some of them can be over the top with that type of stuff. And I'm not for that, making another black person feel less black because they didn't go to a PWI, because everybody has certain circumstances. I myself went to a HBCU for my undergraduate years. I went to Mississippi Valley State University and got my bachelor's degree. But then I got my master's degree from a predominantly white institution, Arkansas State University. And I really went there because they had graduate housing that I did not have to pay rent for. That the housing was on campus. I didn't have a car, so the graduate housing was on campus. It came with cable, internet, so on and so forth, and so that I can get my education from a good program, a good mass communication program, and not be coming out a whole lot of expenses and have to worry about travel, so on and so forth. And I had two friends who were there at the institution already, right? But needless to say, some of y'all are letting, some jokes that came y'all way, y'all are letting that get to you to the point where you're trashing historically black colleges. Again, these same institutions that educated our people when they were not allowed to go to the predominantly white institutions. I'm talking about y'all grandmama, your great-grandmama, your great-grandfather, your grandfather. These institutions educated some of our mothers and fathers, right? And I'm never going to trash them all for the sake of covering for Deion Sanders. He is all right. People look at him as a deity in this world. His image, no matter what he does, he's going to be okay because people idolize and worship him to the heavens, right? I'm not one for making deities out of athletes, but people do it all the time. And Deion Sanders is a godlike figure amongst men. He's recognized as a god amongst men. From white folks, black folks, everybody of different ethnicities love Deion for what he did on their field, and because he's recognized as one of the greatest football players to ever live. But I'm not for black folks throwing historically black colleges under the bus and trashing them, spitting, and black folks are spewing anti-black rhetoric. Like, I'm talking about anti-black rhetoric, talking some Fox News points, like anti-black rhetoric, Tucker Carlson type lingo and rhetoric in order to cover for Deion Sanders. Are you fucking kidding me? Using Tucker Carlson talking points, trashing HBCUs. Black folks are doing this because they love Deion Sanders so much. We do too much celebrity. I promise y'all, black folks love celebrities so much, they will throw their own community under the bus to cover for these said celebrities. You see these two individuals here, Andre 3000 of my favorite rap group of all time, Outkast and LeBron James, one of my favorite athletes of all time. no matter what no matter how much I'm a fan of their work, no matter how much I'm a fan of their work and what they do, if they do something wrong, I'm going to call them out for it, right? Because I was raised to know that no man is above reproach, but I understand that not everybody was raised with that same type of ideology. But black folks are letting it turn into a point where you're trashing HBCUs, spitting anti-black rhetoric, spitting on HBCUs because you love Deion so much, which is ass backwards for real. But let's get to the main point. Again, I said there were lies being told and things are getting messy because people are just making up stuff, just making shit up to justify certain things that Deion Sanders did after the announcement of his departure. And let me just say this in the video. I am not mad that Deion Sanders left to go to Colorado. Not mad at all. Get your money, black man. Take your bread. Because I'm not for telling a black man to do something that I wouldn't do in that situation because, hell, I know I need the money. And I know my family needs that too to secure generational wealth for our families, right? However, I did not agree with certain things he did in his departure. With posting up, you know, the picture of him coming off the private jet, landing in Colorado with the Colorado gear on and shades, flossing and stunning, throwing it in the face of his students at his players at Jackson State only a few hours after they won the SWAC title, right? I didn't agree with him being on stage during the SWAC trophy presentation, telling them, let's go, wrap this up, let's go, we got to get the hell up out of here. He didn't say get the hell up out of here, but he was trying to wrap them up and telling him he was telling all of them he ready to get the hell up out of there to go to Colorado. Like he had more important things to do than to celebrate that victory with his players. I didn't think that was cool. I didn't think how he was talking to his players when he first announced that he accepted the job at Colorado. You heard the rumors. It's true. Either you elevate or you get terminated in this thing. It is what it is. It was no compassion or empathy for certain kids who cannot come with Deion to Colorado. Who Deion is not taking with him. He's taking his sons with him and Travis Hunter and the incoming recruits and his coaching staff with him and the incoming recruits. But he ain't taking a lot of them boys with him. They staying at Jackson State and he encouraged them not to get in that portal, which I understood to a certain degree because not everybody is good enough to be in that portal. Some of them will get eaten alive in that portal, but he's telling them to stay put. And that'll be the last time some of them men, those guys, I feel like he could have been more compassionate in that speech. In his last moments coaching those, in the last few weeks of him coaching his team, be more compassionate and empathetic towards these kids that they never going to play for a guy like you ever again. Ever again. A lot of these guys are never going to go to the NFL. They're not going to sniff the NFL. So I feel like he could have been more compassionate in that time. And people got mad at me for saying that. They started making up narratives that I was mad that he was leaving to Colorado, which I was not. I said I would have took the bread too, right? Or people got mad at me not liking how he handled certain situations, that they were trashing HBCUs, making up lies. First, let's go to the first lie. The first lie is that Deion Sanders had Jackson State's whole locker room facility built out of his pocket. That's a big lie. That's a lie. Coach Prime did not build Jackson State's new locker room facility at all. He is not the reason for that facility being built. The locker room was already in play to be rebuilt before Coach Prime was hired at the institution. Castle Black Construction, one of the builders that bid on the project, had the design underway in 2019 and they priced it in 2020. Coach Prime came to the institution. He got hired, I believe, was it in the spring or the summer of 2020. They already had this stuff underway before Coach Prime was even named the coach, before they even knew they were going to hire him. So the JSU athletic facility was funded by the university and has been in work since 2019. This is not something that Deion Sanders came and just made happen. The university did not receive funding from Coach Deion Sanders to build that facility. What Coach Sanders did do is donate certain amenities he wanted for the facility. I believe he had a hand for sure in getting them uniforms, leveraging his clout and cachet to get them new uniforms, so on and so forth, and get them lights and stuff put in there and make it look fancy and look cool on certain lengths or certain things he may have wanted in there. But he did not fund that whole facility out of his pocket, the lie that y'all going and running with, which is crazy, right? Again, and this was stated by a Jackson State spokesman after the news of the purported salary donation had been making headlines, right? Another lie that I see people telling is that they broke into Deion Sanders' home in Jackson. In Jackson, they broke in Deion Sanders' home. First of all, Deion Sanders has never, ever lived in Jackson, Mississippi. I don't know where y'all getting it from. He didn't live in Jackson. And ain't nobody broke in his home, right? Stop making up lies so you can make Deion seem like a saint for leaving the school. Nobody is even making him out to be, well, some people are. But I'm not making him out to be no devil. I'm just telling you stuff that he did that I didn't agree with. But some of y'all are just going to the heavens above. They broke in his house in Jackson. He don't even live in Jackson. Never lived in Jackson during this entire stay. During this entire time coaching at Jackson State. During them 3 years, he never lived in Jackson. He coaches in Jackson, but he doesn't live there at all. And nobody broke into his home. The second lie, they stole out of Coach Prime's office. They stole out of his office. Coach Prime's belongings were never stolen. I repeat, Coach Prime's belongings were never stolen out of his office. He found out it got misplaced each time. And it was the time he thought it was taken and stolen, but he found out it got misplaced. One incident, he thought somebody stole his boombox, and then another time he thought somebody stole his jewelry, etc., right? And in each situation, it was misplaced because he got it back within the hour. He got it back within the hour. In fact, the cleaning crew who were sanitizing the lockers in office spaces told Coach Prime they were going to move his stuff prior to him going on TV and telling the world that his stuff got stolen. So the cleaning crew already told Deion Sanders, Coach Prime, we're going to move your things. We're going to move your things that we're cleaning in here. We're going to move them. He forgot all about it, got on TV talking about they stealing from him. Them people stealing and they stole his stuff. You know, going on a rant of how they stole from him and how he needed stuff. He don't want nobody stealing from him. I mean, villainizing the HBCUs all across the board. And then Coach Prime later remembered what was told to him prior to his things being moved. But the thing was, Coach Prime never went on TV and admitted his error and took it back. He never went on TV and took back that, oh my God, I forgot they told me this. He never went on TV and said it. And then at that point, the damage was already done, and Jackson State University's reputation got smeared and is continuing to be dragged through the mud at this very moment for a theft that didn't even happen, right? Another situation, when the water crisis occurred, you got people out here talking about Coach Prime was putting the kids in hotels. He was putting his players in hotels when the water crisis occurred in Jackson, when they didn't have clean running water. That's a lie. Coach Prime was not putting his players in hotels out of his pocket. That's a lie. JSU athletics and the government covered the cost of hotels. The JSU athletics and the government covered the cost of hotels because it was a federal issue. They covered that, not Deion Sanders. Not Deion. Again, y'all with the lies. Coach Prime had them in hotels. He had to put up money for them to be in hotels. Stop lying because you love Deion so much. Knock it off, right? Another lie. The kids had to wash up in swimming pools in Jackson because they didn't have no water. They had to wash up in swimming pools. That's another damn lie. Y'all watch that Barstool documentary on YouTube, and they got Coach Prime. Coach Prime is in the water, fully clothed, fully dressed, in the water, acting like he washing up, right? And y'all took that and ran with it. Y'all know Deion likes to play up stuff for the camera. That's what he likes to do. He likes to play up stuff for the camera and make it look a certain way for the camera. And I love Deion. He's a Hall of Famer. He's a showman for sure. And that's how he got to be such a mega star in this world, because he is a supreme showman. He get on that Barstool documentary, that docuseries on YouTube, acting like he washing up and he got to wash up in the pool. And everybody took it and ran with it and say, all the kids was washing up in the swimming pool. All of them was washing up in swimming pools. Oh my God. They was not washing up in no damn swimming pool with the chlorine in there. I guarantee you that shit. Stop making stuff up because y'all love Coach Prime. And then y'all gullible to believe that he in there washing up in the damn swimming pool every day. He went on that damn docuseries carrying on, putting on a show, because he'll do stuff in front of cameras that he wouldn't do behind closed doors. And Coach Prime he created a character in himself, and that's why he got paid as a cornerback. He got paid so lofty as a cornerback because of his skills and because of him being a showman. Y'all went and saw him on that docuseries washing up in that pool and thought that's something that he really does. Fully clothed. For real? Fully clothed in the pool, washing up. That's what he was doing. Y'all thought he was really doing that shit? Cut it out, right? And it's another thing. So about a week ago, a young man was killed on Jackson State University's campus, right? And I hear people saying that Coach Prime is leaving Jackson State University because he wants to be in a much safer environment, away from harm and danger. like all other college coaches would, right? All other college coaches would want to be away from hurt, harm, and danger and want their kids and family away from that. That's why he's leaving. He's leaving because he wants to be in a much safer environment. And while, hear me out, y'all, while it is terribly sad and horrific, what happened to that young man, and I'm sending my condolences to that family, I want to pose y'all a question. Because while y'all out here, y'all painting Jackson to be, oh my God, it's just so much crime at this school. This school is riddled with crime. Just crime, crime, crime. This school is crime. It's everywhere. You see what happened when that young man got killed? Nobody need to be there. It's not safe for Deion to be there because the young boy got killed on campus. It's not safe for Deion to be on that campus because the young boy got killed. It's horrific. HBCUs have terrible safety standards. It's not safe for him to be at that HBCU because it would have never happened at a predominantly white institution that's only happening in Jackson. I pose y'all a question. Did the coaches and the players leave the University of Virginia after 4 black athletes were shot and 3 of them died on the campus of UVA? Right? I'm asking y'all, did the coaches and players leave then? Did they leave after them athletes were killed? They were killed on campus. 3 of the young men died in the situation, so they were murdered by one of their own teammates, right? And none of the coaches are in a rush to leave the university. No one is encouraging them to leave either. But the problem is, after y'all saw this happen, and this happened well after Deion even announced that he was leaving. Deion didn't leave because of that. He said he was leaving before that even happened, right? But in the wake of the young man being killed on Jackson State's campus, y'all are using that to say, oh my God, like he needs to get up out of here. Y'all are encouraging Deion to leave because, HBCU campus are just so much more crime riddled than any other campus across the country and any of the other predominantly white institutions. He needs to get the hell away from there because it's unsafe. Were y'all telling that to the people, the coaches at Virginia when the players got killed? Were y'all telling that to them? I thought so. You weren't, right? My point is, bad things and crime happen on all campuses nationwide, even at predominantly white institutions. And I know this because I went to a PWI for graduate school, and some of my closest friends went to PWIs as well, whether they were students or student athletes, right? And they've told me the stories about things that happen on campus at these predominantly white institutions often. Stories of rape, all type of crazy fraternity type stuff happening to kids. Racial slurs being used, people dressing up in blackface, all type of racist, all type of remarks in all these predominantly white institutions, people hanging nooses and stuff at all these institutions. But yet it's so unsafe, and it's such, y'all vilify Jackson State for being so unsafe and such a, oh my God, crime field, all this crime, oh my God, Coach Prime, just get away from that crime, Coach Prime, you don't deserve that. Are y'all fucking serious? Knock it off. Knock it off. And then, and speaking of crime, I was so mad when Deion was up there talking about he went to Colorado, talking about the crime-free environment while on a tour of Boulder, while on the tour of the university, talking about it's crime-free and all this, because I felt some type of way because that was a shot at Jackson State. It was. Y'all want to act like it wasn't, but that was a shot at JSU when he said that crime-free and all this and all that, a crime-free environment in Boulder, Colorado. For real. And this is the thing. It's ironic that he talks about being in a crime-free environment, right? Because I've heard, like, even before Deion was announced as being the coach, excuse me, I've seen on Twitter Boulder, Colorado residents, the very, very small decimal of black people that they have there, talking about how much the town is filled with racism. And it's not surprising considering that the town is 1% black, right? All the crime Deion talking about, crime-free residents and all of that, right? And you don't want to talk about some of the racism that occurs in Boulder, Colorado. Some people, like some of even the black residents in Boulder, Colorado, talk about the fact that the town has a lot of virtue signaling racists, and they hide their racism behind this liberal front. They act like, because they act super liberal and try to hide their racism behind that, which I've seen people do that on the regular often, especially in Chicago. I've seen people hide their racism behind being liberal. And they say it happens a lot in Boulder, Colorado, right? And they act like they're so liberal there until a person of color shows up, and then they turn into a hick town in Alabama. And I've seen that from a Boulder, Colorado, a few Boulder, Colorado residents when I just typed in racism in Boulder, Colorado. I saw these tweets from individuals who live in Boulder, right? So yeah, Deion, you may be in such a crime-free environment, but there's another element that could be strong for your kids, your players, and children in Boulder, especially if they don't know they play for the football team. If they don't know, they know your kids, but some of the other players you may be bringing in, if they don't know they play for the football team, you might need to watch out for how they respond to your players for all the crime-free environment that you got going on, which is, I hate that damn shot he took it there, just, man. And then also, in Colorado Springs, an hour and 30 minutes away from Boulder, I seen Mr. Mark Curry recently. Y'all know Mark Curry from hanging with Mr. Cooper. He's sitting in the lobby of the hotel. They're harassing him, asking him, do he live there? I mean, is he staying there? Trying to get him up out of there because they think, who is this black man sitting in this lobby? He needs to go. He needs to go. An hour and 30 minutes away in Colorado Springs. So, I don't know. Good luck with that crime-free environment, Coach Prime. But nonetheless, man, there's also this narrative that JSU was stealing money from Deion by not paying him his percentage when the stadiums were filled. Because in his contract, he had like a certain stipulation in his contract that he would get a certain percentage of the money from certain ticket sales once they reached a certain metric, a certain number, right? And so this rumor that JSU was stealing money from Deion by not paying him his percentage from the stadium being sold out, this rumor came from an episode of Earn Your Leisure, the only Earn Your Leisure podcast. Deion Sanders was a guest on there, and he is quoted as saying, "How can we have 60,000 people in the stadium and you told me we sold out? I take the receipts and we only sold 28,000 tickets. Y'all better find out who's stealing. Y'all better find out who's stealing because that affects my pocket." Right? Now, this clip of Coach Prime, aka Deion Sanders, saying this has been making his rounds around social media. However, a separate statement to Jackson TV station WLBT was sent by Jackson State University, indicating that Jackson State University has honored all financial obligations of Coach Deion Sanders' employment. The video in question was filmed on September 20th on our campus, on Jackson State campus. Unfortunately, a seconds-long excerpt using a hypothetical example from an over 60-minute interview is being used out of context and being circulated as fact. So what they basically saying is that Coach Prime made up a hypothetical situation in that interview, and people are taking that and running with it as fact that Jackson State wasn't paying him properly. They're like, hold on. If you watch the interview, you see he made a hypothetical, but people are taking that as fact because they want to believe that Jackson State the HBCU did Deion so dirty, and they would never do him like that at the PWIs and all this and all of that, right? I've even seen people say, look at the respect. And when he was welcomed at Colorado, at the university, I've seen people say, look at all the respect, that he's getting from these crowd. Basically, the dude started off by saying, it's not about race, it's not about color, but it's a difference between PWIs and HBCUs. Look at the amount of respect that Deion gets when he walks into the room. And I said, I beg your pardon. I did my Dr. Umar. I beg your pardon. When he came to Jackson, boy, he was welcomed with open arms, celebrated and beloved. And celebrated to the heavens. The people welcomed him the same damn way when he came to Jackson, right? So to act like the people in Jackson weren't ingratiating to him when he came, it's absolutely ridiculous. It's egregious. It's ridiculous, right? And for all the love that he's being shown now, because they want to act like, the HBCUs villainized him when he left, because a few folks in the town, because it was some folks in the town that were upset about him leaving, and they were upset for many reasons, as I outlined before, because they know another Deion Sanders is never coming to their institution to prop HBCUs up in the same way. His mother and father only made one of him. He is one of one. Nobody has the clout, the cachet, the respect from men, women, no matter what ethnicity. Nobody is treated like a god. No black man is treated like very few black athletes are treated like a god the way Deion Sanders is outside of the great Michael Jeffrey Jordan and maybe Ken Griffey Jr. I've never seen people clamor and people shaking their boots the way they do when they see Deion Sanders. Grown men, the kid and grown men scream when they see Deion Sanders. And black folks recognize that, especially in Jackson and people outside of Jackson too. Black folks, we see that. And we know that College Game Day only came to Jackson State because Deion Sanders was there. They could have been undefeated, just like they were, with another coach. Eddie George could have been coaching them, and they were not going to come. All right? Eddie George is coaching Tennessee State. Eddie George is an all-time great Tennessee Titan, 10,000-yard rusher. Hugh Jackson is at Grambling State, and the world doesn't give a fuck about HBCUs. The only reason they cared is because Deion Sanders, primetime, was coaching one. Right? That's the only reason they care. The only reason athletes were even coming was because Deion was there. I'd like to see if these athletes are going to still be there now that Deion is gone, or are they going to be in Boulder, Colorado? I would assume the latter. They're going to be in Boulder, Colorado. That's Gilly, Wallow, Rick Ross, Snoop, all of them going to be in Boulder. They're not going to be at Jackson State or any other HBCU homecoming or big game anymore. And I can put my money on that. They were only there because Deion is there. And the people in the town of Jackson, the city of Jackson, recognize, the black folks recognize, that they're never going to get that type of fanfare for their institution ever again. But let's get back to the more lies, right? I just refuted that one about the ticket sales, them stealing from him in tickets. Again, stop the lies. Stop the lies to make Coach Prime look good for mishandling certain situations involving his team and players, right? You know, what's crazy is that when I looked into my comment section in my previous videos, when I said you can't blame, I said that JSU alumni are not to blame for Deion Sanders leaving the institution. They are not to blame for him not being able to be retained. And people are all in my comment sections. I mean, talking anti-black rhetoric. I mean, spitting on HBCUs, dragging their name through mud and I mean, anything like just mud and dirt, just to protect Deion Sanders. I had people in my comments talking about all HBCUs do is steal money from people, and Coach Prime wanted no part of that. That's why he left, because all HBCUs do is steal money from people. People were in my comment section of my video calling JSU, Jackson State University, a shit show and a raggedy ass rundown school. Well, I want to counter that, because Coach Prime, Deion Sanders, knows a thing or two about running a raggedy ass shit show of a school that steals money. And that school that he knows, that school will be Prime Prep Academy, right? So he knows a thing or two about running a shit show of a school that steals money. Coach Prime does, right? Prime Prep Academy is a charter school it was a charter school co-founded by Deion Primetime Sanders in 2012. And it was ultimately closed in 2015 due to financial collapse. Now, at Prime Prep Academy, hundreds of laptops were stolen from Prime Prep. This is a school that Deion Sanders co-founded and had a hand in, for sure. Staff members failed to follow established policies, and his school was ranked as the lowest performing elementary school in North Texas. So all those people talking about HBCUs, them kids ain't performing well, they're low performing. Deion Sanders wanted to go to a better situation. He wanted no part of being at that school where the academics weren't taken serious and the money was being mismanaged. He wanted no part of that because Deion is class personified, so on and so forth. When your boy Deion Sanders was at a school, he co-founded a school where the academics were in the ground and the finances were getting run into the ground and misappropriated like crazy, egregiously, right? When Prime Prep Academy shut its door permanently in 2015, employees left without jobs or paychecks for their final month of work, and the school went under investigation for fraud and financial crimes. So it's ironic, y'all, that y'all primetime lovers and stans would trash HBCUs for the financial woes at some of the institutions and the academic issues when y'all boy, Primetime was running a school that had terrible financial indecency and mismanagement taking place. Prime was running a school with financial woes, and fraud was taking place at the school. And y'all want to talk about fraud at HBCUs and how Coach Prime is above that? Knock it the fuck off, right? Talk about the irony, people. And then you know what? I'm gonna end it on this too, because at first, people were like, how can Deion say that God sent him to Jackson State? How can he say that? How can he say that and then up and leave, right? He said God sent him there, and He made it a thing about God sent him to be there to change the landscape for the HBCUs and make kids recognize that they can go to HBCUs and get drafted, and we can turn this HBCU thing into just as big as these Power 5 schools. That's what Deion Sanders was saying. He was saying stuff like that. And people was like, how can you say God called you here and then leave? And at first my response was that I'm not going to fault Deion for that, because sometimes God can call you places for a season and not for a long-term stay. Sometimes God can call you places for a season and not for an extremely lengthy period, right? And I say, sometimes that happens. God can call you places for just a moment or two, and then you can be called to go somewhere else, right? But however, some things have kind of changed my outlook on that a little bit, right? So there's a 2001 news article, and I'm going to put this news article in the comments section so y'all won't think I'm lying about this. There's a 2001 news article indicating that primetime Deion Sanders owed a car repair shop a total of $4,265.57. However, Deion Sanders only paid the shop $1,500 because Jesus informed him that's all he needed to pay, right? So Deion Sanders he was supposed to pay a car repair shop $4,265.57. Instead, Deion Sanders only chose to pay $1,500 of that because Jesus informed him that's all he needed to pay. So now when I see stuff like this, I can see a pattern developing here. And that pattern is, it could be argued I can see an argument being made. It can be argued very well that Deion Sanders uses God, It can be argued that Deion Sanders uses God as a crutch to carry out things he wants to do, right? It's certain things he wants to do that he'll use God. You use God as a crutch to do those things, so he won't take backlash and take punishment. He only wanted to pay this car repair shop $1,500, but he used God as a way to only pay $1,500. Say, God told me to only pay you this, instead of saying, I don't want to pay y'all $4,000 some dollars. I just want to pay y'all $1,500. Instead of just coming out and saying that, he gonna put God in it and say God told Jesus. Jesus told him to only pay $1,500 instead of $4,265.57 that he owed that repair shop. Instead of paying that car repair shop $4,265.57 that he owed him, he paid him $1,500 because Jesus told him that's all he had to pay. Instead of just saying, I don't want to pay that, he put Jesus into it, right? And so I think in this situation, it could be possible. I'm not sure. And I'm not saying Deion Sanders, I believe he is a God-fearing man for sure. I don't believe Deion is a bad person. I don't believe he's a bad person. I don't think he's an ugly person. I think he has some ways about him that can be very questionable, that can be very head-scratching, that can be kind of ugly, right? Because Deion does some things that I questioned before in the past, like when he went against Colin Kaepernick, when Colin Kaepernick was getting on a knee to protest police brutality in America. I saw Prime going against him, right? There's one time Stephen A. Smith made a post going against Colin Kaepernick, and Deion Sanders is all in the comment section, truth, with the fire emojis, truth, brother, and all of this, going against Colin Kaepernick openly. But it shouldn't surprise me because, as we know, Deion Sanders, he loves him some Jerry Jones. Loves him some Jerry Jones. It's something about Dallas Cowboy players and Jerry Jones, and sometimes the coon and stuff that they be on, the raccoon activity, sometimes I be like, man, it's something about Dallas Cowboy players. They automatically think Jerry Jones did them a favor by paying them, instead of recognizing that Jerry Jones paid them handsomely because he needed them, and them being on their team increased them being on his team increased his revenue and increased his pockets and made his pockets fatter. They don't recognize that. They act like Deion Sanders took them off the street like me and paid them big mega millions and gave them a chance and paid them big mega millions. No, he paid y'all that because y'all deserve that, and he knew that. And he knew that if he didn't pay you, somebody else would, and you would go to somebody else's franchise and drive in mega millions for their franchise and not his. Dez Bryant, Deion Sanders. But nonetheless, let's get back to the conversation at hand, right? Instead of telling the world that, hey, I want to come to this institution, I wanted a chance to be a head coach. This institution gave me the opportunity to be a head coach. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to be here and fulfill out my dream of coaching kids and coaching young men and leading them. Instead of just saying that, Deion got out here and acted like he was Moses, parting the Red Sea to save black folks and save the HBCU ranks and make us a powerhouse and make us as prominent, make our institutions as prominent as the Power 5 schools. That's what Deion was out here selling, right? Instead of just saying, I'm here because, hey, this school gave me a coaching opportunity. I thank y'all for giving me this coaching opportunity. I'm glad that, y'all gave me the opportunity to live out my dreams and I get to coach young men at the college level. And I'm grateful for that. Deion made it seem like he was out here crusading for HBCUs to ride for HBCUs in our institutions and make sure that we are upheld at the same standard and looked at and regarded the same way as Power 5 schools are. He made it seem like he was there to do that, to put them in the same ilk as the Power 5 schools. And we know you can't do that within 3 years. I believe Deion came to the HBCU ranks because he didn't want to be an assistant coach anywhere else. I believe he was ecstatic about coaching at an HBCU. He heard about the HBCU culture because he didn't go to an HBCU, but he heard about it being in Florida. He wanted to check it out and see it and be around it firsthand. He was excited to do so, but then when he got there, it may have been, not when he got there. He recognized that, hey, this could be a stepping stone for me to get a good job and a better job opportunity somewhere else. If I do well here, I will step up. Instead of just saying that, he made it seem like he was crusading for HBCUs to change the landscape once and for all. And that's not what he did. And he used God as the selling point to get black folks to ride with him, to get black folks to stand behind him. So much so that black folks believe he wasn't leaving because they said Deion said God called him here. So he can't be leaving. Deion is a man of God. He ain't leaving because God called him here to be here. He's not leaving. And then when he decided to leave, they were like, oh my God, he told us God called him here. So it seems that Deion could have a way of using God as a crutch to carry out things he wants to do and say God called him there. You came to Jackson State more than likely because you want to build up your coaching career and get to the Power 5 conference ultimately. Not because God called you there to be there. Like, no. Right? But, the brother from the story about the car, the auto repair shop, Deion could be using God in a shiesty way. Well, he definitely used it in a shiesty way in 2001. And you know what? I never take stock. I don't always take stock into things that people's ex-wives say or people's ex-girlfriends say, because sometimes these women may be speaking from a point of just being bitter at the man, or not even just men, ex-wives or ex-spouses sometimes can be bitter individuals. They don't like that person. They're upset. They'll just say things, right? But I will say this. Now it's looking kind of like maybe she was right, because Deion Sanders' ex-wife, Pilar Sanders, the mother of Shadur, Shalomi, I think in Shiloh as well. I don't know if he's Shiloh's mother. I don't know if she's Shiloh's mother. She might be. I think she is. She might be Shiloh, Shalomi, and Shadur's mom. Pilar Sanders came out and said that Deion Sanders, Coach Prime, she said her ex-husband often uses their children in the word of God to disguise his image often, and disguise, what he really is trying to do and certain things that he's doing. And I don't know, man. I don't think he's a bad person. I think he really is a God-fearing man, for sure. But I think it may be some truth to what Pilar Sanders is saying. That's all. Machiavelli Mills TV, thank y'all for rocking with me. Thank y'all for watching this long video. I'm out. Peace.